Hey, Fragrance family, I'm Daver.
I'm Jer.
And we're the
Fragrance Bros.
Come at you this time in Jeremy's house.
Look at that. Look at that ugly painting behind us. You believe how dusty it is if you could see it. Clean that thing.
This time we have another review, this time on Fresco by Ilum Dean. And let's just get straight to it.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. You were expecting it. Data juice is 2012. It's classified as a fruity chypre. Notes are pineapple, blackcurrant, lemon, rose, jasmine, patchouli, oak moss, amber, musk, and woody notes.
Woody notes.
And what'd you get out of longevity out of this?
It's average. It's about 6 to 8 hours. More on the 8 hour side. It wasn't too bad for what it is.
Mine was really poor.
Really poor?
Really poor.
Really?
Like 4 hours or less. Yeah.
Balls.
What about projection?
Projection was pretty bad for me. I don't feel like it was ever getting away.
Yeah.
That was the... Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. I'll just say it was poor. And I'll say more later.
Yeah, I got poor projection as well.
Okay.
And I doused myself in that stuff, and it just would not leave your skin.
Yeah. I think it's pretty... I mean, it's eau de toilette, it says, but it feels like it's really low oil concentration, a lot of alcohol.
Like barely eau de toilette.
Yeah.
If it is.
Like a bottle of alcohol in a dropper.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Season, I would say this is best for spring and summer and daytime.
Yeah.
And purpose is best for probably casual only.
I think so.
What does this remind you of? Well,
shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you've seen, hopefully, our shootout with Aventus.
Yep.
If you haven't, you can go watch it right now. Because I'm sure Dave will link it on there. But it does kind of remind me of Aventus. If only because it's probably the closest thing to Aventus that there is. Not that it is so close to Aventus necessarily, but it's just, it's kind of reminiscent of the same thing.
Yeah. Pineapple's
in there, and then kind of some like earthy stuff underneath.
Yep.
But that's really about it. What I get, and we talked about this in the shootout, but it's kind of like a, like if someone kind of drizzled like pineapple sauce or, compote or whatever over like some roots or some peanuts or something like that. That's kind of the feeling I get. And it's so, it does have like a heavy alcohol kind of feel. And you do feel like it's very transparent. You know what I mean? Like you don't feel like it's hardly there.
Yeah.
Like you sprayed on like a Bath and Body Works body spray.
Yeah.
Or Axe.
Yeah.
This could be a great Axe scent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, this has so much hype recently because of its comparison to Aventus.
Yeah. And
it's impossible to do this review without talking about Aventus.
Yeah.
And I should also say, that this hype is not, the hype on Fresco is not hype on Fresco.
Yeah.
The hype on Fresco is Aventus hype.
Yeah.
And I think someone else pointed that out before. This is not popular because it smells like pineapple, whatever. This is popular because it smells similar to Aventus.
Yeah.
And so it's riding on those coattails.
Yeah.
As we said, I don't think it's necessarily a clone. I think they smell different. They smell similar, but they smell different. And as we'll get to later, other people that I had smell it thought they smelled different.
Wow.
So, and these are people that aren't into fragrance like we are.
Yeah. So
I don't think that just the average person would sit here and think that this is a clone.
Yeah.
However, that aside, since we already did the shootout, it's very, very nice.
Yeah.
I think it's a good fragrance for what it is. It starts off with that pineapple note, and I think the pineapple note is nice.
Yeah. And
it lasts throughout the life of the fragrance. And that by itself is impressive because pineapple is one of those, it's an exotic citrus.
Yeah.
You don't just find that everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a citrus fragrance, but it's pineapple. So it's real sweet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't smell particularly fake to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell particularly, that pineapple note anyway, doesn't smell particularly cheap to me. It smells like pineapple, and it lasted a life. And then it's backed by a lot of lemon. And whereas Aventus has apple, this has lemon.
Yeah.
And that lemon is also apparent. And then as it dries, it kind of has this evergreen type note.
Yeah.
And
it's also kind of oak mossy.
Yeah.
I get a lot of oak moss. As it dries down, it gets mature to me.
Yep, I can see that.
Kind of like those old school powerhouse fragrances.
And the musk comes up too.
Yeah.
There's a twinge of patchouli, but it's not a lot. But it's just barely in there.
Yeah.
That said, even though it's a nice fragrance, I will say that where it tanks on me is performance. And I didn't get good performance out of longevity or projection.
Yeah.
So for me, it's hard to want to recommend this or buy this.
Yeah.
Because of that reason.
Yeah. I think that if we're being fair, if we're being honest, and we're not talking about Aventus, we're just talking about Fresco.
Yeah.
In this tier of fragrances, and the tier I'm talking about is not niche,
right,
and not upper end designer, like some of your like YSLs, Thierry Mugler, that kind of thing, but sort of the lower end designer.
Yeah.
I think this probably falls in the same realm as some of your. I don't want to say Jaguar. It's probably a little. Well, it may be in the Jaguar realm, the Adidas stuff, the things you might see at Marshalls.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, so if this is a Marshalls, fragrance, I would call this a Marshalls gem.
Okay.
Because I think that if it's in that realm, I think it stands apart by doing something different. A lot of those smell pretty similar. They're all kind of the same sort of like sporty kind of, you know, or really overpowering kind of crazy thing.
Yeah.
So in that way, this is probably the nicest of those that I've smelled.
Yeah.
Along with, I think Jaguar Vision is actually pretty decent as well. That's a whole other video. So if we're just going to look at it in its cross section of the fragrance world, I think it shines pretty well. Performance still kind of sucks, but none of those have fantastic performance. Really.
That's true. Yeah.
So, you can kind of measure this thing two ways. You can measure it against its contemporaries, in which way I think that it shines, or you can measure it against the stuff that's being compared to and hyped against, and then it really falls very, very short.
Yeah.
So it's just two different ways of looking at it, I guess.
If you don't mind performance, like some people like to wear eau de colognes that don't last, or they like to wear skin scents.
Yeah.
Then this may not be a problem.
Yeah.
This may be something that you might want to look into because it's only $30.
Yeah.
But I will say, what I said in the shootout, that this is perfect for spraying stuff to make it smell pineapple-y and, kind of close to Aventus.
Yeah.
So if you want to spray pillows or
Yeah.
your car or something like that, then I think this is good.
Yeah.
I think this can exist outside of the Aventus comparison.
Yeah, should.
And I think this is that if you do buy this, then I think you can also buy Aventus and be, you wouldn't you wouldn't be confused about the two.
Yeah, I think that it's really hard to judge this on merit of its scent.
Right.
Knowing Aventus.
Right.
Because it's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to really say whether I would or would not buy it if Aventus did not exist, because Aventus does exist, and it's one of my favorite fragrances. And so when I smell this and it bears a similarity, but it falls short of that standard, immediately I take it down in my mind. You know what I mean? But I agree though about the room spray. If they packaged this in a different kind of bottle with more of a room spray kind of atomizer, I think this could. I mean, maybe it wouldn't sell as much. I don't know how that whole thing works, but I think it would make more sense.
Yeah.
Where it would spray more, kind of like a shh kind of thing. You could spray. It would be great for like a bachelor's apartment. This scent for a room scent. Winning.
Yeah, I would think it's great for that.
Good way to go.
Yeah.
So.
And for that, I would recommend buying it for that reason.
Yeah.
As a scent that you wouldn't really wear, but that you'd like to smell.
Yeah. Because,
like we said, it's a good smell.
Yeah. It is a good smell.
It's hard to wear because of the performance.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Bang for buck though is great.
Yeah.
Bang for buck's $30 ish. Depends on now where you buy it, because it looks like the price is going up some.
Yeah.
But when we got it, it was $30.
Yeah.
And for 100 mil, man, no wonder people are buying this up all the time. Because it's like a chip shot.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now I will say that if we're taking, I have a lot of fragrances in my collection right now that I pay between $30 and $40 for that do a lot better.
Okay. Yeah.
Performance wise.
Right.
But that was not MSRP. That was like from Fragrance Net or some Amazon, some sort of place that gave me a deal. So, I mean, it's kind of weird because it's cheap, price-wise. It's it's affordable, whatever the word you want to use. But it performs so badly that it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough. I feel like it's one of those things where even if I liked it, I probably wouldn't reach for it, just because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I got other stuff that will project for me and do a better job, and I'm just just kind of be like, pass over Fresco and go to something that'll get the job done.
Yeah.
So.
And what about compliments?
No. It's not. It doesn't project.
Yeah.
It's not to lick you to really get a feel for it. Smell it by tongue or something.
Tastes like alcohol.
That's right. What about you?
No. For the same reason, no one can really smell you. I asked my wife what she thought, and she didn't love it.
Yeah.
And she also said, because I told her, why we were reviewing it, because this kind of has a comparison to Aventus, and she said it doesn't smell like Aventus. She said, I like Aventus.
Okay.
So, and she likes to wear perfume, but she's not really an aficionado.
Yeah.
She's not into trying to dissect notes, and she's not, she's not trying like we're trying.
Right.
So I consider her someone who's just like the common person on the street.
Yeah.
Because some people say, oh, the average person won't tell the difference.
Yeah.
I kind of think otherwise.
Yeah. She did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
But that's aside.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to smell like Aventus.
Yeah.
It's nice by itself.
It is. It is.
Let's see. Final rating.
I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Because I think that it smells good, and if it lasted longer, if it had to go, if it had better performance, I think that it could be a really interesting choice. Yeah. But it doesn't.
Right.
And so I'm just going to lay it in the middle of the road. You know what I mean? Because I think that doing something in this price range and in this, market tier that smells like that, I think is an accomplishment for Ilum Dean or Ilum Dean, however you say it. But I still think they have some work to do. Yeah. If they really want to be, a force in the market. So. Yeah,
I totally agree. I'm gonna also give it a 3 out of 5. For the same reasons, I can't really say anything bad about the scent because it smells good, and like we said, barring the Aventus comparison, I think it smells good on its own. Yeah. But the biggest hit to me is the performance. Yeah. That's where it tanks. Yeah. And if this had average performance, I would at least rate this a 4. Yeah. For me.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
But also, it kind of gives me some, I'm kind of bummed by the performance, but also have some kind of like a little twinkle of hope. Because it's interesting to see a fragrance come out in this price range. Yeah. They got pretty close to Aventus. Yeah. Not real close, but I mean, it's getting there. Yeah. And I don't know.
Who knows?
Bring on the competition.
Maybe they'll make a Fresco flanker and it'll be even closer.
Maybe they'll make a Fresco intense.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be nice. Ilum Dean, are you watching?
So anyway, thank you very much to Ilum Dean for making this fragrance and for, putting something new and interesting out there on the market. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah. So that's all we got. There's a review. What do you think of Fresco by Ilum Dean or Ilum Dean? I keep mispronouncing.
You want to swap the name?
Yeah, I know. I do. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments down below. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like in the corner down below. We'll love you for it. We'll see you next week with another fragrance review. We're the Fragrance Brothers. Bye.
Bye.